People sent this to me. It's a video from Mr. Beard, my friend Ryan Beard. We're actually friends again. Isn't that so?
I just slept with the guy and didn't.
Relax, Ryan. Come on, bro. Just chill a little bit. Jesus. Sneezes. This looks like Shane Dawson. Hey. Anyway, that also looks like Shane Dawson. Crazy.
Come out to him because
people sent me this video here. I don't. Let's watch the core video. All right, so a trans girl says, "I just slept with a guy and didn't come out to him." This is the core video. Come out to him because I wasn't ready.
Wiped Lazy Susan's memory. They should have wiped.
That's sexual assault because his consent would have been different with that info.
Off that awful mascara.
She doesn't have to tell him if she isn't ready.
I think she looks beautiful. She's doing the
That's transphobic.
best she can, Seuss.
Whoa! Touched a nerve there.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'm assuming this person thinks that it's sexual assault to sleep. Like if a trans person doesn't tell you that
because I wasn't ready.
Yeah, let me just tell you something right here because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of people not like everything's sexual assault to everybody. You guys don't know a goddamn thing. It's annoying because it's a very serious issue. Here's the reality. I think it's wrong for a trans person to not tell somebody that they're trans before they engage. Because yes, that would change. That could quite possibly change the interaction. You have a right to not have to sleep with somebody who's trans. Not a hot take. Okay, you should get full disclosure. That's totally reasonable. But also, if your whole argument is, hey, if somebody withholds information from me, that's sexual assault, then that means that if I am a married man and I sleep with you and I don't tell you I'm married, it's sexual assault as well. That's your logic, that married people that cheat on their spouses are committing sexual assault. They're not. They're shitty. These are violating, but they're not sexual assault. It's a withholding of information. It's not going to hurt you. It's a bad thing. Like, you shouldn't do it. But I'm tired of everybody calling it, like, you guys are just so desperate, I don't know, to be victims of something. You have to stop, because it's so dishonest, and it's so shitty, and I really over-exaggerate. This is the thing. You can say that it's wrong for a trans person to not tell you. That's fair. But if you call it sexual assault, you're over-exaggerating, and that over-exaggeration to me is transphobic. It's not sexual assault. I know there's going to be people in my comments that are like, you're wrong. Even though I laid out like a perfectly reasonable explanation, comparing it to like, I guess, adultery. Is that what you call it? Sleeping with a married person. That withholding of information is wrong. But it's not the same. And like, yeah, some of the comments, don't engage in hookup culture. Honestly, because you'll avoid these scenarios. You know, honestly, keep yourself out of it. You know, I sit here say all the time that like a big problem. You know, if a woman goes to a bar with shitty guys and ends up getting taken advantage of, it's not her fault in the slightest. But I think that she should do her best to like withdraw herself from the situation, like stay out of that space. Right. Same thing here. If you're a guy and you don't want to like stay out of the hookup culture, if you don't want to end up engaging with a trans person, I guess. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's just you guys all want to be a goddamn victim. Don't engage in hookup culture. I think that trans people should tell you before you guys smooch. You know, they can get a free meal out of you. I don't care. I also don't think it really matters. I like, you know, it's. Excuse me. Do you consider sleeping with somebody knowing that they have an STD, sexual assault? Yes, because that's you get hurt from an STD. You don't get hurt from sleeping with a trans person. It's very different. That's this. It's not the same thing. So somebody withholding information that they have a sexually transmitted disease, that's I don't know if I wouldn't call it like I don't know if it's sexual assault. Maybe it is. Probably it should be. I don't know. That's hurt. That would be hurtful. That would hurt you physically. Sleeping with a trans woman wouldn't hurt you physically. I'm sorry if you don't like my take. I know that a lot of you guys want me to give you double down on the confirmation bias, but at the end of the day, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway.
I just slept with the guy and didn't come out to him because I wasn't ready. That's grape.
I can't handle it when people call things grape because it's like grapes. It's like grape versus rape is so different. It makes me giggle because it's like grapes. I don't know. Saying it in a serious tone, it's crazy.
This is really stupid if you think about it for more than like 2 seconds. Let's put this in a different context. Let's say that you have...
You gotta actually grow a beard, Ryan. You gotta knock it off because you look too young. You gotta grow a beard, goddammit.
A preference that you would never sleep with an Italian person.
That's fair.
So you go on a date with someone and
That's fair. I don't like Italian people. I hate Italian people. They're terrible people. It's funny. I don't hate Italian people. There's like my some of my best friends are Italian, and you know how especially male friends are. I would tell them that I hate Italian people all the time. That was the joke. Like I would just be kind of I guess racist towards Italians, and like we would all laugh, and it would be a fun time.
you don't ask them whether or not they're Italian. Then you end up sleeping with them. Later on, you find out that they were Italian. Does that mean that you were R-worded? I don't think it does, because
it's an Italian person. So yes, no, I'm just kidding. It's not that.
should have been your responsibility to let the person that you're on a date with know that you do not sleep with Italian
Hey, look, somebody just messaged me with the last name that's very Italian. I don't want to say what it is, but he must have been thinking that I was thinking about him.
people. I believe that everyone is entitled to their own preferences. So if you have a preference that you don't want to sleep with trans people, you need to let the person you're on a date with know that you don't sleep with trans people.
That's an interesting point. I actually, like, it's one of those things where it's ideally versus practicality. What he's saying is that if you don't want to sleep with a trans person, you should tell somebody, hey, I don't like sleep with trans people. It's like a weird social interaction to do that, but I would generally agree, I guess. I think that it's hard to execute that, right? So it's like, imagine you're on the first date, and you're with the girl, and you're like, hey, they're like, oh, how are you? This and you're like, yeah, by the way, I don't like trans people. So if you're one of a trans person, I don't want to fuck you. Like, that's a little bit of a weird thing. Also, generally speaking, you would, I don't know. You know, it's so deep. It's such an interesting thing because if I ask somebody if they're trans, a lot of people take that offensively, which is actually kind of transphobic, but actually not necessarily transphobic because most trans people aren't passable. That's not criticism. That's just kind of the reality. So maybe they'd think you're calling them ugly, which maybe is transphobic. I don't know. This isn't really a perfect scenario. I think that it would be good to vet out whether somebody was or wasn't for trans people. I think if you're a here's the thing, is that like, ideally what Ryan says is making sense. If you're a trans person, I think we both know that nobody's going to do that courtesy for you because most people are shitty. Your best bet is to ask people what they feel about the LGBTQ community and go from there. So if you're like, hey, what do you think about LGBTQ? And they say, I don't like them, then maybe you should get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where ideally what Ryan's saying makes sense, but practically I just don't see the implementation going too well.
It shouldn't be up to the person you're on a date with to disclose every single part of their identity. Like, someone shouldn't have to...
Kind of, a little bit. I mean, that's the point of dating, right? For you to disclose your identity versus me disclosing my identity.
Tell you, hey, I'm Italian, just in the off chance that you won't sleep with Italians.
Hey, are you
The
Italian?
only reason that this is even a debate is because so many people assume that it's not normal to sleep with trans people.
I'm trying to feel out. Like, I guess it's not. I don't know if it's like not normal to be trans. I guess there's not a lot of trans people out there comparatively, so I guess not a lot of people have slept with trans people. So I guess that would make it abnormal, but not in the sense where it's wrong, just in the sense where it's not frequent.
However, I do believe that if you're on a date with someone and you say, I don't sleep with trans people, and they respond by saying that they aren't trans and they're lying and they actually are trans, then I think that would be a different situation. Then I think that the person you're on a date with would be at fault. So again, if you have some sort of hyper-specific preference that you won't sleep with Italians or you won't sleep with trans people...
First of all, if you won't sleep with Italians, good for you. No. I don't think it's hyper-specific to not want to date a trans person. I feel like that's somewhat aligns with what we would call normal, not a derogatory normal, but like it's more frequent that you'll date a trans person, you know?
People, it is your responsibility to let the people you're on a date with know this ahead of time. It is not their responsibility to disclose every single part of their identity.
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm with the overall message, you know, maybe you should express if you don't want to date a trans person to the people. But, you know, of course, the person that you express that to might feel like they're shitty. They might be like, oh, are you saying that I look like a guy? If it's a girl. I know that's fucked up. It would, but that's probably how people would take it. Like, I've gone into streams before. I legitimately went into a girl stream at one time. And for some reason, I thought she was trans. Like, I wasn't even being a dick. And I was like, oh, are you trans? And she banned me and told me I was a scumbag and said she was going to report me to Twitch. So that was a fun couple days. People take it really offensively. I think we should normalize not giving a shit if you're called trans. I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, honestly, unfortunately, it falls onto the person who's trans to have to admit that they're trans. And, you know, as a person out there, if you're somebody who is validating of trans people, even if you wouldn't date them, you should create a comfortable space, or space where they feel comfortable saying that they are or aren't trans. And if they do say that they're trans, you shouldn't shit on them for it. Right? If somebody does the right thing and says, like, oh, by the way, I'm trans, don't be a fucking asshole, even if you wouldn't date them. Be like, oh, okay. I see, like, well, you're very attractive, etc., but I'm just not particularly comfortable. Maybe we could still maintain a friendly relationship. But also, you know, like, if you look at somebody and you think that they're attractive, and then you find out that they're trans and that kills it for you, that is your internal bias. That's really your internal, like, that's your bias. Most people don't instantly think, oh, I want to have babies, I can't date you. Most people are like, oh, okay, it makes me uncomfortable because I think that you're still to some extent a man to me or a woman to me. And I understand the feeling, but maybe you should do your best to move through that bias. Maybe go on another date. You don't have to force yourself. Like, this is the thing. Everybody has feelings and experiences. Like, it's okay to feel a certain way about something. Totally fine to not want to date a trans person. But try to date a trans person. You know what I mean? Be a little uncomfortable. Get to know a trans person, okay? You know, Mama Gut has a great story. When she was younger, she saw, like, somebody with Down syndrome in it. Like, you know, she was younger, and the person went to grab her mom's hair, and she was afraid of Down syndrome people after that. But now she works with people, adults with disabilities. And they're, I mean, I know this is going to sound weird, but they're just people. You know what I'm saying? It's just that once you get to know a group of people, all of a sudden they become more normal and they're not so weird to you. So just get to know trans people. Even if it wouldn't make you want to date them, like, the goal here should be as affirming on trans people as you feel like you possibly can. That doesn't mean you have to have sex with them or date them. But, like, if you ended up going on a date with somebody and it turns out that they're trans, give them a chance. They're just fucking people. It'll be okay. Like, we'll all survive. You'll be okay. You know, plus, if you really think about it, like, what do you think is better? All right, a vagina, right? Or like a fucking custom-made vagina. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what do you want? Yeah, this one's custom-made. It's got all the inserts. Nah, but in all honesty, give trans people a chance. It's not that big of a deal. You're not going to die for you if you want to date with somebody that's not fucking normally what you would date. It's not a big deal. That's your best. Give your best effort. That's all I have to say.